Hello and welcome back to the Arsenal podcast. We are here straight hours, literally hours after the NLD, the North London Derby, to talk everything Arsenal and all things Arsenal indeed. We'll be taking a look at the game, sort of taking it apart, so to speak, looking at the key points, the key flash points, and the key moments in the game, and over about the next 40 minutes or so. And I am delighted to be joined by Rob again. Hello, Rob.
Hello.
How is one?
I'm content. Let's say content. I'm not at a happy scale. I'm not at a depressing low scale. I'm somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. Almost as if like a team drew 1-1 or something earlier on.
Yes, indeed. Yes. We will plough into your emotional feelings, no doubt, in the next half an hour or so. And also on the show tonight we have Matt. Good evening, Matthew.
Hello.
Yes. Are we content?
I am content, yeah.
To take Rob's word?
Yes, yeah, I'm content.
Okay.
I'll pour my heart out, I'm sure, later in the show.
I shall look forward to it, as I'm sure the listening viewer will also. I'm delighted to welcome a new voice to the show. Good evening to Rhys. Hello, Rhys.
Hello there.
How are you?
I'm the same as the others, to be fair, mate. Same as the others. I'm not happy. I'm not sad.
So content is the word of the do word of the day.
Yeah.
I think very much. I mean, as I like to do with all new voices to the show, would you like to introduce a little bit about yourself and how you started supporting Arsenal?
Yeah, sure. So, started supporting Arsenal from a young age. My old man drove it into me. You know, it took me to my first game when I was 2. I don't remember it, I have to say, but I've been going ever since. I go as much as I can. You know, I'm up there quite a bit. So yeah, you know, love the club, love the team. You know, just love everything Arsenal, to be fair.
That's what we like to hear. Yeah. What's your best memory?
As a lot of people my age will say, it's probably the double. You know, the 49 unbeaten double. Lifting it at Highbury. I was there for that, so that's an experience that, you know, will live with me, and I'd tell everyone. So yeah, that's probably the best.
Which double do you mean? Because I spoke to you a little bit on before the show, and do you mean the 98-99 with Tony Adams' volley, or the 01-02, or sorry, is it 02 or 3? 01-02.
01-02.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're at the lane. No, not at the lane. That was 99. Yeah. No matter what age, I think it's one of the club's most iconic moments. But yes, enough about that. Let's talk about today. So, I mean, I was quite confident without Alderweireld. I was pretty convinced we could get at them. I mean, I think Kevin Wimmer's a good defender, Austrian international. With Pochettino, I think he sprung a little bit of a surprise setting up a wing-back system. And I don't know, I thought it could have gone two ways. Basically, I think his thought was, I don't think we're not going to keep you out, certainly, as it proved, but we're going to try and get more than you. And I don't know, they seem to throttle the game, for want of a better word, certainly for the first 20-25 minutes, and then we finally got our act together and we got our foot in the game. With certain individuals standing out more than others. Yeah, I mean, so I'll start with Sanchez. Again, he started up front for us, and there was, you know, after Giroud scored 2 and 3, there's probably a couple of thoughts that he might have started up front. I thought he might, with Iwobi dropping out, but as it was, we kept it as it was. We, you know, had Xhaka and Coquelin, as the midfield duo, which I think made quite a big impression of the game. I thought there's lots of tackles going, which is impressive. But with Sanchez's start, I mean, in fact, Sanchez's performance. So overall, he just seemed to struggle it quite a bit. Do you think that was a system that Spurs employed? I'll come to you, Rob, first.
I'd say it was a bit daring from Spurs to go through at the back in a massive game as it was, and I did think hearing that they'd gone through at the back, that it could almost come back to bite them. But obviously, it seemed to work quite well. With Sanchez, I mean, I can see why we've kept him in the team. He's, he's not been short of goals himself, even though Giroud's come back. And we spoke a little bit beforehand about how flying we were against teams like Chelsea, and that was mostly down to Sanchez being as energetic and just all around the pitch as he is, especially in that front four. So, a bit surprised he was so slow today.
He did seem slow. I thought he looked very tired, certainly at the end of the second half, but I guess we'll touch on that in a minute. But, he didn't really look particularly lively. Yeah.
He still found the odd pocket of space, but I don't know, they all seemed a bit thrown by the three at the back, because the first sort of 20-25 minutes we kept getting caught offside. Ozil especially.
We had 4 offsides in the first 20 minutes. Sanchez was offside 3 of those, and Walcott was the other one, I believe. And that was quite frustrating, but it definitely it stuck out for me quite a lot, the fact that he was getting, he didn't know where to position himself in that line that Spurs had kind of rigidly played.
I mean, it's one of those 3 at the back worked for them today because they kept having an out ball, and I think it stopped us having to be able to have such a high press so far up the field, because there was a wing back there to travel with it that they could always go to.
Yeah. For most of the first half also, it looked to me like Ozil was playing almost like a shadow centre forward position. He was playing number 10, but he was furthest player forward, quite a lot of the time. Rhys, I'll come to you for this. It seemed like we had there was no penetration because maybe Ozil was in that position. What do you think?
It seemed like we was just lacking in the final stages. I'm not sure whether the players are tired or what it was, but teams like Chelsea, we came out and and we just went at them from the start. There was none of that. There was no sort of, the final ball wasn't going. Sanchez, he looked tired. I'm not too sure what was sort of going on, but it was like we lacked that that final bit to get through. And maybe it was the way Tottenham set up today that sort of threw the players off, but if I'm honest, the players that we've got in the squad, they should, that shouldn't affect them in any way. They should be coming out and and I watched the game, and Sanchez, he did chase down the ball, and the guy does not stop running, but he can't do everything himself, and the players behind him, Walcott and Iwobi, they need to be doing the same.
It's funny. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Iwobi. I remember, I noted that he was. I think he was getting a lot of stick for the fans. Certainly certain BT Sport, that he wasn't tracking back enough, and I noticed some of his demeanour at times was he looked like I don't want to have a go at Iwobi, but it seemed like he was he looked like a kid today. If you watched how he was wearing his shirt, he had it pulled down over his hands, he was just sort of. It was a cold day, but it was like a cold day in the park, and he's just sort of hanging around waiting for something to happen. And he needed to be a bit more proactive at that.
Yeah, I remember at one point even Mustafi, I saw him screaming across the pitch, and I believe, from what I heard from the commentary, I believe it was to Iwobi to tell him to track back, because he wasn't getting back enough, and he was going forward, but when we lose the ball and they're playing that type of formation, they're looking to hit on a counter, and with the wing backs and the pace that Rose and Walker have, you've got to be careful, because they'll catch you out.
Well, absolutely. Rose and Walker are dangerous enough as it is, without them being wing backs further up the pitch, more enclosed. Completely. Matt, staying on Iwobi, I mean, he had probably before the goal our biggest, probably not just our biggest chance, but the biggest chance of the game. And it was fed in by Sanchez, who, again, Sanchez was more about distribution, it seemed, today, when he sort of lacking that extra bit of pace. And the thing with Iwobi, it's he has the feet. He's amazing on the ball, but he just lacks composure in front of goal. Is that was that something you noticed? Is it a concern?
I think it is a little bit of a concern. I mean, today he was hugely frustrating for probably the first real time since he's come into the team. So yeah, it was a bit of a concern. And I said on the last podcast that he needs to add an end product to his game. He needs to add goals, and that chance he had was the perfect opportunity to do that. And he wasted it. And then he got in decent positions on the edge of the box to find a player, but he sort of always seemed to choose the wrong option. So I think it may be time to sort of give him a break from the starting lineup and get somebody else in.
I think in many ways, like it's probably a good time to have that break now. So he can, he's going to be away on international duty for Nigeria, no doubt. And depending on how much game time he gets, obviously the first game back is going to be Man United, which I think he should definitely play. He's a vital call, just as his debut against Chelsea would have been. I think he's absolutely vital that he starts, for certainly in that game, and see how he goes. If it was any other game, and certainly before the international break, I would consider probably dropping him to the bench. But I guess when Iwobi plays, I think it's right in saying we haven't been beaten, and certainly we lost against Liverpool when he was off the pitch. So I guess until we lose, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in that starting 11. Obviously, depending on how players within the team are also kind of performing. I think Rhys, you touched on Mustafi, but I'll come to you, Rob, about this. Certainly in the first half again, and keeping on the first half theme, Mustafi was racing out from defence like a crazy man, like an absolute maniac at times, which I like to see. I love to see commitment. But then, if we say that, I've criticised Gabriel again for not being a particularly able defender, and not just me. And then if we say that about Mustafi, then there's not too much such a differential between him and Mustafi. Is that not a concern, but is that something maybe he needs to kind of just reel it in a little bit, Rob?
I think in a game like today it was, because there were so many times in the game that like Son would have like an overlapping run. I remember the one he almost got Aaron better and had to make that amazing sort of last ditch tackle that he always seems to make in the big games. But yeah, I was a bit concerning. Mustafi and Koscielny looked a bit all over the place during the game. I think there was one might have just been after their equaliser where a ball came in and both of them were sort of underneath it and neither almost headed it away.
I know the one you mean, yeah.
It was like, oh my god, this could go horribly wrong. I mean, they still look solid. I'm still not I'm not like terrified of them playing together, but he was leaving Koscielny so exposed today, and Koscielny again seemed like one that seemed to have like half a yard of pace. I guess it's just this is an 11 that's played so many games. There really hasn't been that much rotation in the side at all, really, other than the Reading game, which was a couple of weeks ago. But you've had a hard trip to Bulgaria to play Ludogorets, where you haven't had a 6-0 win like you had before, and you can take people off. This was a game we were playing till the 89th minute to try and win. So I mean, it's a team that's had a lot of games, and perhaps the international break, although none of them are really going to have a rest over the Messer Ozil, maybe can't come soon enough, because I can't remember who Germany are playing, but I'm sure
he's not in the squad because they're giving him a rest. Germany playing an experiment.
In the squad,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's I mean, none of them except for us are going to get a rest with the international break. But I dare say Germany are probably going to have an easier time than if he was playing at Man United next week.
If Joachim Löw is playing an experimental back line, you might think he might play Jonathan Tah, who was excellent against Bayer Leverkusen. For Bayer Leverkusen against Spurs. So I mean, we could hope for that. And obviously, you mentioned about Bellerin. I mean, I think it showed how much his reading of the game's improved in the last year. Just being able to, he's got the pace to just run from one side of the pitch, and then just to scoot across and just slide in gracefully like that. It was a champagne moment of football, defensive football anyway, I thought. So we'll talk about the goal then. I mean, it's a terrific header from Kevin Wimmer. I mean, if that was at the other end of the pitch, he'd be getting plaudits, but unfortunately it wasn't. Fortunately for us. I mean, but he was forced to. I mean, I've looked at the replay, and I'm not so sure that Koscielny or Sanchez were going to get on the end of that. I think Koscielny looked quite likely, but his head looked in quite a weird angle, so I'm not sure. Sort of, Rhys, was that really sort of indicative of Ozil's game really today? I think it was more like he didn't seem to be. We mentioned he did sort of pop up into centre forward role in the first half a little bit, but it seemed to be he was more down to distribution. I think he made 12 crosses in the game.
12 crosses, it's a lot for an attacking midfielder, and I don't like seeing him out on the wing because he's better in that middle, playing the ball through. The cross and the goal, it was lucky. It was coming, and
definitely was coming, yeah.
It was definitely coming, and we had chances after chances to go 1-0 up. But I've watched the goal again and again, and from what I've seen, it, as much as I don't like to say it probably should have been offside.
Okay, well, let's touch on that. I mean, I'll send it around the table, I guess. So you think it was offside?
Yeah.
It's arbitrary. I think it's because you can see in the line that Koscielny, I think it's Koscielny and Sanchez are just marginally offside. But because it's been known, because it's gone in off a Spurs player, and the rules have changed, I can see why it has stood. If that finds Koscielny, it goes in the net, then it really should be. But I think maybe it's like a decision in hindsight that looks better. But I can see why it's stood. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I can see why it stood. I mean, they are marginally offside, but then it comes down to whether or not they're interfering with play. If that's still the rule when it comes to offsides, but. Yeah, I can see what Rhys is saying. It was a tad fortunate, even though it had been coming. But I mean, on the balance of play, we did deserve to take the lead. So
yeah, I mean, we definitely did. I mean, Walcott's shot, that was absolutely travelling, absolutely clattered. It didn't look like it was going on target. It seemed to just sort of, I don't know, it seemed to whip in and almost defy the laws of gravity, and it really clattered off the post. And as you say, I think it was, we deserved to be 1-0 up ahead, at half time. And sort of going into the second half, you think, well, okay, we've got this goal now, and it's like, hopefully we can sort of push on. And really, Spurs came out pretty strong in the second half, but other than that, the Bellerin tackle, we looks like we sort of rode the storm. But then, Dembele, who earned the penalty, I think was probably man of the match. I think he was outstanding. And he wins the penalty, and then it's first of all, was that a penalty? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably was. I mean, it was a little bit soft, but Koscielny had sort of stuck a leg out rather unnecessarily. I thought he wasn't really going anywhere. There was defensive cover.
It was unnecessary, I thought, because Xhaka was on hand. I think so was Coquelin. It was a bit. It's one of those, and it definitely looked. It looked to the naked eye like it was a penalty as well. Oh God! But yeah. So we'll come to Kane in a minute. But I'll go back to Rob with that other question. I forgot to ask him. So was it offside for you?
Howard Webb, I think at half time said that Koscielny was onside actually, and it was only Sanchez that was off.
Right. Okay.
And that's why the decision got given that Wimmer headed it in. Because if had it fallen to Koscielny, it would have stood anyway had he have scored. So I'm going to go with Howard on this one. But Arsene Wenger also said in his post-match interview, he said, you don't have to head the ball into your own net defending that free kick.
Yeah, well, I think it was going to be very difficult for him to header it anywhere else, I have to say. Okay, well, on the penalty, are you no qualms about that?
Soft, but
contact.
Yeah, it was. It was a penalty. I mean, there's no getting away. It wasn't like he jumped over a trailing leg or anything. He definitely made contact.
Yeah.
Chelsea, and it was a certain penalty that he really didn't have to concede because there were players around, and Dembele looked as though he got a bit of a nudge from Monreal and was starting to go down as he connected with Koscielny anyway.
And rightly, as we talked about pre-match, Matt, Kane absolutely sat his score.
Yeah.
He was out 7 weeks. I mean, fair play to him. He's had ligament damage. It's his first game, pretty much his first start back, and he scored. And I mean, it was. I don't think it wasn't a pretty. It was a pretty poor penalty, but it was high enough, and even if Czech had got his hand to it, I think it might have probably squeezed in. I mean, the goal seemed to again sort of change the game. As derbies go, it wasn't particularly seesaw, but then it did at that point. It did really turn into a bit of a bun fight and into a typical derby. We had chances. I think probably I don't know, like in the last 10 minutes, I would have said Spurs probably. There was two chances in particular where the ball was pinballing around, and then he could have gone anywhere, and I think we got quite fortunate. But then equally, we could have snatched it. Certainly from by which time I thought Iwobi might have come off, but then there's a terrific delivery for Xhaka. Rhys, I want to ask you, how much impact do you think Granit Xhaka had on the game coming back after suspension?
I don't think he was majorly. I don't think he impacted it majorly, but you could definitely tell he was there. He's the sort of player that he loves to tackle, and it's at times nervous to watch, especially in a game like that, because you never know whether he's going to get sent off or what's going to happen. But at the same time, I love to see him going in for a tackle, and he made from what I saw, the Tottenham players knew he was there, and he moved the ball well.
He passed. He had good distribution today. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And he should have scored that ball from Iwobi, which to be fair to Iwobi was a cracking ball.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah,
it could have been any more perfect.
Well, could he have died for that?
Granit? Yeah. I spoke to a few people that I was sitting with watching the game, and we sort of said, it was the perfect ball, and you in a game like that, you just throw yourself at it in any way you can. The tightest, the smallest of touches could have knocked it into the back of the net. It only just went wide as it was, and even then, Lloris had to save it and push it out for a corner. The smallest of touches, it could have gone anywhere, and you wonder why he hasn't thrown himself completely at it, and he's just sort of leant forward a little bit, but not. It seemed like he just leant forward, but not too much.
Yeah, agreed. So about 65th minute, we made our first change and we brought Ramsey, Coquelin. Do you reckon was that the right call at that time, Matt? Sorry, who's the candidate?
Well, I thought Coquelin was having an excellent game up until then. Was it the right choice? I can see why he's brought him on, but whether or not it was for the right player is probably another question. Well, I didn't think Ramsey had a huge impact on the game, which was a bit disappointing, to be honest.
Yeah, certainly for an impact sub that he might become, and not the guaranteed starter, as Trevor Francis incorrectly, certainly at the moment, pointed out on BT Sport. So yeah, and obviously we made the double change quite soon. So after that, with Chamberlain coming on for Walcott and Iwobi for Giroud, there's it's almost become a bit of a cliche talking about the old Plan B with that. But is that literally now our Plan B, Rob? Do you think?
To bring on Giroud?
Yeah, and other.
I don't know. I feel like if we start to change the team around again, depending on if Giroud can sustain this good vein of form he seems to be in at the minute, he might work his way back into being the starter for some games. I think Sanchez might perhaps move on to the left in a bit of a cut inside and join up with Giroud, depending on how play develops, sort of a role.
Yeah. Can you really see a 4-4-2 working for us?
I don't know if we'll go truly 4-4-2 because
shadow striker. Do you think?
Yeah, because I don't think Ozil would sort of fit into that. Where does Ozil fit? He can't play deeper, I don't think, and I don't think he's really going to play on either one of the wings. So I think it would probably be more of what we have now, a 4-2-3-1, but with Sanchez coming inside a lot more than he does.
Yeah, could we perhaps say invent a new role as Santi Cazorla did when he last season played with Coquelin, just as this roaming kind of not non-entity, but like this roaming individual who Okay, well, Fellaini played it like that at Everton a little bit under David Moyes when he played just off the striker, but like, yeah, like, and you know how difficult he was and elusive he was to mark in that time when he was, I think he got 17 goals that season, or 15 perhaps, something like that. And I don't want to compare Mesut Ozil to Marouane Fellaini, God forbid. Yeah, I'll step back from that. But I mean, could we see something similar, perhaps, with either Sanchez or Ozil?
Potentially. I mean, there's been a lot made of comparisons to Bergkamp at the minute.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
And again, funnily enough, since we brought it up on the show a couple of weeks back, in fact, way back since I brought it up, in fact. But it's definitely something that is on the, it's on the minds of fans and the media everywhere, which is certainly a very good thing. In fact, whilst we're on this subject, I know Dennis Bergkamp's your idol, Rhys. Can you see him, Mesut Ozil, eclipsing Dennis Bergkamp? If say he signs this new contract and he stays at the club for another 4-5 years, something like that, could you see that poster of Dennis Bergkamp becoming that poster of Mesut Ozil? Potentially.
I think if he signs the contract, and does stay for another 4 to 5 years, it's going to be massive for the club. And it shows commitment, which lacks in football these days. And I do think if he signs the contract, he could become a Dennis Bergkamp at Arsenal. But it's all down to whether he does sign that contract, which I hope he does.
Yeah, I mean, we speculated about it on the show last week that if Wenger stays, then Ozil will sign a new contract, which, I mean, that's going to be met with kind of certainly concern, as we don't really know what's going on with behind the scenes at all. Maybe a chance to be a fine thing, and there's no point really in speculating again, because Wenger's sitting quite pretty again at the moment, and as we go through November, that might get worse. But happily, this time November is actually a large chunk of November is taken out of it by the international break, so I'm quite happy about that. As Notorious November, I think it's been called. So quickly, kind of to wrap up the game, I think it was at 80 minutes. I thought, sort of looking in hindsight to all of the end of the game, if we don't win this, I'll be very disappointed. But then the Spurs, there was a couple of nasty moments. One in particular was with Son as he chased the ball as Petr Cech slips over, and I've drawn a smiley face with not a smiley face, with a bead of sweat over his brow, because I was like, oh my god, that time seemed to stand still for that. Yeah, I mean, Matt, did you watch it and breathe a sort of a huge sigh of relief?
Yeah, I mean, almost had multiple heart attacks. It would sum up Arsenal over the last 10 years if that was how we were to go and lose the North London derby, but thankfully he recovered and we held out.
It was really untidy, wasn't it? He slipped over, and then Son, he sort of pulled out a little bit, and then Cech just sort of prodded, he sort of kneed the ball, he shinned it out. I was like, oh my god, that could have, because if Son had got a touch to that, I don't know, it was quite an angle, and I don't know if he didn't really have a lot of assistance running up, and I think we'd have probably had men covering. It was just a case of whether Son would have put the ball into the net, but happily it's a moot point. I thought when Trippier came on for them at the end with Walker going off, they had some real penetration going on the right, and he got in once right in stoppage time, but again it was offside. So again, I was looking at that and I was thinking, right, a point, against the Spurs side who've only conceded 5 in the last 10 league games, was pretty good. Sorry, it was 4 in the last 10, now it's 5 and 11. I suppose what I want to ask is, Spurs are looking decent at the back. I think they've still not scored from open play in, I think it's 4 games now, 5 games possibly. But I'll go on the table again. Do you think that Spurs, again, add Alderweireld and a fit Kane, and again Dele Alli was out again today, do you think they've got a chance of staying unbeaten? I know they've got to play Chelsea pretty soon after the international break. Rhys, what do you think?
No.
Okay. Well, good answer. No, yeah. Any reason for it, you think?
I just don't think they're good enough. They're unbeaten, but they're not winning. They're looking. It's the same as I spoke to a friend today, and he said to me, "Do you see it as a point gained or 2 points dropped?" And the team that we put out and the way we've played this season so far, I see it as 2 points dropped today. Spurs, they don't look great. Okay, they're unbeaten, but how many of them have they won? And how many of them?
Well, exactly. They've drawn the last 4 games. They've taken 4 points from 12, and that's not good enough, is it?
And I can't see it going on for much longer. They're going to come up a team, and I hoped it was going to be us that would have ended it, but it weren't to be. But they won't go the season unbeaten. There's no chance.
Yeah, they've definitely got a Burnley in them, or hopefully a Hull, or something like that. Because they tend to lose one of the somewhere along the line. I mean, much like us, really. So they tend to kind of the wheels fall off, and then. It's actually funny. We were talking just before the show that if Spurs were to stay unbeaten, but unfortunately, we'd go on to win the league, that would be that would just sum Spurs up to a T, really. Making this feat, equaling the Invincibles, but then just having us win another Premier League trophy, another Premier League trophy that they could only dream of. Same question to Matt. Really, do you think they'll stay unbeaten?
No.
Where do you think they might come unstuck?
I just think that, like us, they've got a sort of a poor result in them against one of the worst sides in the league, and then I think against the likes of Chelsea or Man City they may come unstuck as well. I just don't think they've got enough in them to go unbeaten, and I think they'll challenge for top 4, and I think they may well get top 4, but I think that will be that for them this season.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to sort of quickly bring up the top 4 and the rivals in a little bit. But before I do, Rob, do you agree with all of us in thinking that Spurs can't remain unbeaten?
I almost feel I should play devil's advocate and be like, yeah, they'll go the whole season unbeaten, but that's
or wait up, or play the reverse psychologist.
That's too horrible to imagine. No, they will come unstuck eventually. I mean, the Invincibles rode their luck a bit in a few games, but even then, they used to absolutely blitz away most of their opponents. In the last couple of weeks, Tottenham have struggled, really. I was a bit worried today Vincent Janssen might get the first goal from open play goal for them, but luckily that didn't come about.
He had a chance.
He did. And long may it continue that he doesn't score from open play, because they can't get penalties every week.
Yeah, is he really? Is he essentially like the new Soldado? Can only score penalties.
I had seen that somewhere
Yeah.
compared to Soldado. Yeah, I think in one of the national newspapers had compared him to him. Do
you know what, Rob? That was just in my brain. I hadn't actually read the newspapers. Yeah. No, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to ask then. Out of that Spurs 11, and add Ali and add Alderweireld, is there anyone you'd have in that team, Rhys?
No.
Really?
No. Yeah.
Be honest.
No. Do you know what? I saw someone ask this question to an Arsenal fan the other week, and I can't remember where I saw it, but he said no. Yeah, I think the same. I don't think Kane is a good striker, but again, he's not. I wouldn't say he's world class. He's had a good couple of seasons. He was useless during the Euros.
So were most of England's squad, unfortunately.
Dele Alli's good.
Is he good, or is he more than good?
He's got.
Sorry, I'm putting on the spot.
He's got quality to his game, but he's no Ozil.
Okay.
And I look at our squad and I look at their squad.
Well, you only had to look at the bench today. Ramsey, Giroud, Chamberlain, El Neni.
We've got. What I like about this season with Arsenal is we have so much depth to our squad, which we've missed for the last few years. And and a few years ago, if someone got injured, it was who's going to replace them. We don't have anyone. Whereas now, God forbid anyone does get injured, but if they do, you've got two or three players that can step in and do the job.
Yeah, and I'm glad it's happened, because I didn't think under Wenger it was possible, but he seems to have sort of shifted his loyalties to one side for the betterment of the team, and I'm very pleased he's done that, because it shows that he has changed as a manager. For whatever people have said about him, I've said about him, the crows have said about him to, not the crows, the cows have said about him to the crows. Sorry, I'll stop there. But you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. Matt, any of that team that you want?
Last season, I was quite jealous that they had Dele Alli, but as Rhys said, he's no Mesut Ozil. Dembele, I think.
Yeah.
Potentially, despite how strong our midfield is, I think he'd do the perfect job for us. So
he's an absolute monster. I think I'm a freelancer, as some of you know, and unfortunately I'm writing quite a few Spurs features at the moment. And Victor Wanyama, he's an Arsenal fan, and I know we were linked to him, but he's an absolute monster. I don't know what difference. I think perhaps we have the same in Xhaka, and he's a bit more mobile. So it would be wrong to kind of be this, and he's got an absolute rocket of a shot, which would be a disservice to him. So Dembele is a good point. Rob, anybody else you'd like to add to the pot? Not too many, of course.
Before this season, I mean, I like Dembele as well. Actually, that was someone that hadn't quite sprung to mind, but now that you've said it, I certainly wish we'd had Dembele. He looked amazing today. Anyone that knows me knows I have a bit of a FIFA man crush on Eric Dyer, having signed him several times from Sporting Lisbon, and yeah, I mean, just for that reason alone. I mean, definitely during the Euros, I was a massive fan of Eric Dyer, because I thought he was the only England player that was playing quite well, and he's probably the only one I quite like, but considering that we've got Xhaka and Coquelin and El Neni and Cazorla in that position anyway, we don't need him, so... Yeah. No, I mean, there isn't really a player at the minute at Tottenham. I get a lot of stick from my friends because they're all go, "Oh, you're such a closet Spurs fan because you like so many of their players."
That's nonsense. There's not enough honest Arsenal fans, basically, and you have to be in this modern age. I say, not too honest. Don't.
I'll go, I quite like, Harry Kane's a decent striker, and I quite like Christian Eriksen. He's a decent player, and he came for a decent fee as well. And they'll go,
you're an intelligent man, Rob. They can't see that.
Because I'm wind-upable. That's what it really is.
Oh, well, there's obviously that side to it, obviously.
But now I look at both squads, and there's, it's not like there's someone on the Spurs squad like, oh man, I really wish we had them. Like, I suppose last season it would have been Harry Kane, because we did need a striker during the spring months, but I mean, look at it now. They're really, our squad is very deep, and it's very good at the minute. There's a lot of quality in there, and I wouldn't take someone straight away and put them straight in the Arsenal team right now. As good as some of those Tottenham players are, begrudging as it is to say.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I think that's we've all made some pretty good points about that. I'm going to come back to a few. Our title rolls in a minute. Has anyone got any posers raised from the game that they'd like to bring up? If you have, just sort of shout. If you don't shout, then there will just be empty air, and then I will work out that nobody has a point. Go on, Rob.
I really miss Santi Cazorla.
Yeah, I know.
I think he's a presence that we're really missing at the minute in midfield. I thought it during the week as well, despite coming back from 2-0 down. I thought that there's so many times we missed that little bit of added control in the midfield. And Coquelin and Xhaka are fine, but I think Cazorla dictates the play so well in that deeper role, and it's a player we don't really seem to have when he's not there. And
it's extremely unique. We've said that in what he does. Essentially he is probably an attacking midfielder, but he is now probably more of a central midfielder, almost like he's probably central midfielder with just a dash of defensive midfielder in him, I think, which was great to see. Yeah. Any other points?
I'd say Bellerin. I think, and I know you mentioned it earlier. He comes in with those, the last minute tackles. But what a player! The guy. There was a few times during the game today that he just doesn't stop. He's just running up the pitch. He gets forward. He looks for balls into the box. He wins tackles. He gets back. He defends well. And people need to remember he's still young.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's a kid, and I just think, and he come out the other day and an interviewer said to him, what would you do if Barcelona called you and offered you a role back in Barcelona? And his response was, I wouldn't answer the phone call.
Right. Well, look, I mean, he said he's at home at Arsenal, and I don't see him wanting to leave, and certainly we're not going to try and shift him out the door at any time soon. So I don't see how with Guardiola there's the old I'm going to say it, the Barca DNA, which is sort of going on there, but I'm not concerned that he's going anywhere anytime soon, because as far as I'm concerned, Hector Bellerin is. Yeah, I've said it. He's like the new Dani Alves.
Yeah, he's
better defence as well.
And I heard that in an interview. He's spoken about, he does one day want to become Arsenal captain.
Well, that's certainly, if you give him the captain's armband, that's one way of making him stay with 100%, without a shadow of a doubt. But like you say, I mean, there's other contenders, but I mean, we've waxed lyrical about Hector Bellerin, and I'm sure we're going to do it hopefully for many months and weeks and hopefully years to come. Yeah.
The thing I'd say about City, there's no certainty to them winning the title anymore. It's not like a couple of years ago where it was like City were a certain bet almost to finish above Arsenal. The league title race at the minute is there's 5 or 6 clubs that could win it this year, and City are got no greater odds to win it than Arsenal have this year, unlike years in the past. So I wouldn't say going to City would guarantee you'd win anything rather than stay at Arsenal, which might keep him.
And that is an excellent segue, Mr. Tompkinson, because now we're going to talk about our league rivals. Yeah, so it did look, Aguero makes it an absolute sitter, really. Although I think it was further out than a lot of people said, so it wasn't exactly a sitter. It wasn't like it was 6 yards out. He should have scored. Should have been 2-0. And then Martin de Roon goes and scores a last-minute equaliser. Certainly didn't see that coming. But more to the point, Chelsea yesterday, did you guys see them last night?
Yeah, unfortunately.
I did.
Were we more... I mean, Everton played a back three, which just did not work. But do you think it was just a massively off day for for Everton? Or, I mean, did you really stand and think, Chelsea, they haven't conceded in 5 games. Since they've made change of system to 3-4-3, they haven't conceded in 5 games.
They look stronger, a lot stronger.
Like Victor Moses looks like a world beater at the moment in this system. I think Antonio Conte's, after he struggled, it's almost like Chelsea and Man United have kind of reversed roles. Chelsea started, okay and poor, and then poor, but now they've stumbled upon this system, as happens with many managers, that it works. As we did with the Cazorla and Coquelin thing, that was purely accidental, really, and it's working a treat. Hazard's absolutely thriving, and it works. But it's like, is that the concern, or do you think? I suppose what I'm going to ask is, are you more concerned over Chelsea or Liverpool for the title, Rhys? If they're going to be rivals,
I'd probably be more concerned over Chelsea if it was out of the two. Liverpool they look strong at the moment. 6-1 today. And Watford aren't an easy side to go and beat.
No, they haven't conceded, again, like themselves, they haven't conceded in 3 games.
But I just don't think Liverpool have got as much talent in their squad as Chelsea, and I think Chelsea have got more game winners. They've got players that can pull things out, and it's a tough question because Liverpool do as well. But I think out of the two, I'd have to go with Chelsea.
Okay, Matt?
Yeah, I echo that. I mean, for some reason this season there is... it's probably because of Klopp and the fact that Liverpool are back scoring lots of goals again. But there seems to be a massive media frenzy, and all the pundits are tipping Liverpool to win the league.
Don't you hate it?
I do, and there's nothing being said about Arsenal. Yeah, Arsenal and Liverpool over the past however many years, when it's got to the business end of the season, they've bottled it. So why is it going to be different with Liverpool this season, and why aren't Arsenal being talked up more?
Because of at the moment, from the month of November, and the fact that we probably will fall apart. So until we do that, there's going to be that chat. I mean, unfortunately, with Liverpool, we can't rely on them having to go to Selhurst Park, and to blow their title chances. So who knows? I mean, Crystal Palace might go to Anfield but unfortunately there's no Gerrard to slip over. Maybe it'll be Henderson this time. I don't know. Rob, same question.
Chelsea, I think, worry me the most. I was seeing the other day people going, "Oh, look, Chelsea fans are going on about trying to stay under the radar, but being Everton 5-0 not staying under the radar."
It's not really, is it? No.
But
Everton are not playing.
They're not playing badly this year. But
at the moment they're in quite bad form. So yeah, but I wouldn't expect them to get beaten 5-0 even at Everton. I say Aston Villa because that was the last time that I've seen Chelsea play that well, when they beat Aston Villa 8-1.
I tell you what, as soon as I think it was the second goal win, I turned and was like, this is going to end up about 5 or 6 the way it's going, and I'm surprised that it stayed at 5, to be honest, because there was a lot of chances they could have taken that would have given them at least 7 or 8 yesterday. Everton looked all over the shop, and Eden Hazard, I mean, last year was a massive off year for him, but he looks amazing again this year, and really a worry, to be honest, because he tore Everton apart yesterday with his 2 goals, which I think were just fantastic solo goals. On Liverpool, I think they're too similar to that 2014 team.
Why do you say that?
Well, they were very reliant on the front three and scoring 6 goals a game almost, it seemed. And today they were playing Lucas in the back 4. Eventually, it's not gonna click for those front players, and eventually it is gonna come and bite them in the arse, I think. And Klopp, he runs that team very hard into the ground. I know there's no European football, which is a bonus for them, but at some point in the season, it's not going to click for Mane and Coutinho and Firmino. And I think not having a sturdy back four and a goalkeeper that you can rely on is really going to hurt them.
Yeah, so you're comparing Firmino, Coutinho and Mane at the moment as it is to SSS, basically.
Yes.
So should we call that MFC or FMC or CFM or what do you reckon? Do you not care?
I don't care.
It's not my team.
Okay, that's a good point. I think they've got. Yeah, I mean, Wijnaldum popped up for his first league goal for Liverpool for Liverpool today, and they've got Lana, who's sort of popping up every now and again. So I think they've got. I think they've got more goals in them than that with Milner as well, left back. So yeah, I don't know. I think again it's too early to say. And international breaks completely change form. With Palace, for example, they've had such an unbelievably Jekyll and Hyde season. First 4 games, win 3, draw 1, unbeaten. Then they come. That's completely opposite. No, they drew 1 game and lost 3. After the international break, they won 3 and they were unbeaten for that 4 games. Now, since the next international break, they've lost all 4 games. So it shows how momentum can swing. And the thing about Liverpool is their fixture list is very kind because they don't really have a lot of games bunched together. They have 1 or maybe 2 tough ones, and then they have another eminently winnable game. And certainly with that gegenpress that Klopp's using, there's goals everywhere. So we'll have to see. Let's wrap things up there, chaps. Good show, thanks very much. Thank you, Rob, very much.
No worries.
Can we have your Twitter handle for us, please?
You certainly can. It's @RobTonginson94.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Matt.
Pleasure.
Also, same question, Twitter related.
Matt D. Dawson.
Thank you very much. Rhys, thank you for joining us for the first time. I hope to have you back very soon. Do you have a Twitter handle for us?
I do. It's @rpaulon93.
Excellent, thank you very much. So we are now descended into the interlull. Can I get a collective groan? Yeah, so no football, no league football at least for another 2 weeks. So long. I might just, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do for the next 2 weeks. Just sit there and sit in my chair and sigh. It's like, oh god, face palm constantly.
I'm going to watch Jack Wilshere bang them in for England. That's what I'm going to do.
Did you want to bring that in, by the way?
We don't have to, but...
Well, let's do it. Yeah. I'm really how has he got into the England side? How has he got into the England side? So, Rhys, I should say I'm probably the anti-Jack Wilshere fan. It's for the last 2 years, anyway.
I love him as a person.
You love him as a person?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
As an Arsenal fan, he's one of the only players in the squad that is so passionate about the club.
Is that enough, though?
No, as a player, you know, I think he needed to go away, and I think he needs to develop himself a bit more. I don't see him getting into the squad that we've got at the moment.
We talked about this last week. Do you see him getting any way back into the team now at all?
I'd like him to, but I can't
Realistically, you can't.
I can't see it. No, as much as I'd love him to, because I think, you know, what he's done, you know, he's an Arsenal fan. He's an Arsenal boy. You know, he supports the club. He doesn't just play for the club. You know, he supports the club. And, you know, when he does come on and he does play games, you can tell he loves playing for Arsenal. And, you know, and you look at what he's done during, you know, the FA Cup parades and things like that. He gets the crowd going. You know, he's a gooner and he's through and through. And I'd love to see him do well at the club, but I just can't see him getting into the squad that we've got now. I think we're too strong. But I do hope he comes back stronger and he proves me wrong.
Fair enough. So Matt, he's going to score against Scotland then, is he?
No, I can see your points. It is a bit kind of mad that he has got back into the England squad just because he's back playing more game
ridiculous.
time. But
I mean, Southgate, I don't want to dwell on too much, but Southgate's another just like another England old boy. It's like, it makes me a little bit sick. Like, we need to bring back Allardyce. I know he's a corrupt son of a you know what, but hey, allegedly I should say that. Okay, and on that note, we will actually wrap things up. Yeah, so we're 2 weeks away, and Man United, when we come back, in fact, actually, I will say that Ibrahimovic is banned for that, which is fantastic news, perhaps. Although it does mean Rashford might rip us to shreds potentially, but again, we'll wait 2 weeks for that. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you soon.